A woman stood on a rain-slicked Chicago sidewalk, clutching everything she owned in a damaged leather tube and a prayer book her father died hiding. Behind her, the mansion of the most dangerous man in the city blazed with light. Ahead, the dark streets held something worse than heartbreak. They held the people who'd already killed once to find what she carried. She didn't know it yet, but walking out that door had just made her the most hunted woman in Chicago. Her husband had never loved her, but someone else wanted her dead. If you want to know whether she survives the night, stay with me until the very end. Drop a like, comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. And let's find out together what happens when a restoration artist becomes a mafia boss's greatest liability and his only salvation. Wub. The rain came down like nails on the studio windows. Serafina Vale pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching headlights blur through the downpour on Ashland Avenue. Her fingers traced the edge of the leather document tube resting against her hip. Inside it, rolled tight, 3 watercolor studies her father had been restoring the week he died. Beautiful, worthless, safe. The prayer book sat on the workbench behind her, spine cracked, pages swollen from years of careless handling before it landed in her father's care. She should have been working on it. Instead, she'd been standing at this window for 20 minutes, watching cars that weren't coming for her. Not yet. You planning to sleep here again? Serafina turned. Miguel stood in the doorway of the studio's back room, drying his hands on a paint-stained rag. He'd worked with her father for 15 years, stayed on after the funeral, never asked questions about where she'd been for the past 11 months. Maybe, she said. Your apartment's 10 minutes away. I know where I live. Miguel's eyes flicked to the document tube. You bring that everywhere now? It's safer with me. Safer than a locked drawer. She didn't answer. Miguel sighed, tossed the rag onto a shelf cluttered with gilt brushes and rabbit skin glue. Serafina, he said quietly, whatever you're afraid of, sitting in this place after dark isn't going to help. I'm not afraid. You've been looking over your shoulder for 3 days. I'm careful. There's a difference. Miguel studied her for a long moment, then shook his head. Your father wouldn't want you living like this. My father's dead. The words came out harder than she meant. Miguel flinched. She looked away, hating herself a little. I'm sorry, she muttered. I'm fine. Go home. I'll lock up. Miguel hesitated, then grabbed his coat from the hook by the door. You've got my number. I know. He left. The door clicked shut. The deadbolt turned. Serafina stood alone in the studio, surrounded by the smell of linseed oil and old varnish, and felt the weight of the past 11 months pressing down like a hand on her chest. 11 months since she'd walked into a courthouse and signed her name next to Roman Moretti's. 11 months since she'd learned what it meant to be a ghost in a living man's house. She picked up the prayer book, turned it over in her hands. The cover was warped, the binding fragile. A 16th century Flemish piece, brought to her father by a client who'd found it in an estate sale. Restoration work. Delicate, time-consuming, the kind of project her father loved. He'd died 2 days after he started it. Heart attack, the doctor said. Sudden, painless. A lie that was easier than the truth. Serafina knew better. She opened the book carefully, her fingers finding the gap in the stitching where the binding had come loose. There, tucked between the first signature and the cover board, was a folded square of paper no bigger than her palm. She'd found it 3 days ago, working late, trying to finish what her father couldn't. The paper was old, brittle, covered in her father's cramped handwriting, names, dates, transactions, and at the bottom, underlined twice, Moretti. Serafina folded it back into its hiding place, closed the book, set it down before her hands started shaking. She didn't know what it meant. She didn't know who else knew it existed. But she knew enough to understand that her father hadn't died of a heart attack, and the man she'd married to settle her father's debts wasn't the kind of man who let secrets walk out his front door. The studio phone rang. Serafina froze. It was nearly 10. Nobody called the studio after dark. She stared at the old rotary phone on the desk, black and heavy, ringing like a fire alarm in the silence. 4 rings. 5. She picked up. Hello? Silence. Then low and smooth. You left something behind. Her blood went cold. She knew that voice. I didn't leave anything, she said. You sure about that? What do you want? Just making sure you're settled in. You disappeared pretty quick. I moved out. That's not disappearing. Walked out in the middle of the night with a bag and a file case. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. Some people might call that running. Serafina's grip tightened on the receiver. I don't owe you an explanation. No, Roman Moretti said. You don't. The line went quiet. She could hear him breathing. Why are you calling? She asked. Because you're not safe. I'm fine. You're not. You don't get to tell me, Serafina. His voice cut through hers like a blade. You walked out of my house carrying something you shouldn't have? You think nobody noticed? Her stomach dropped. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. She said nothing. Listen to me, Roman said, and for the first time she heard something under the cold control in his voice. Not anger, urgency. You need to come back, tonight. I'm not coming back. Then you need to leave the city. I'm not doing that either. Jesus Christ, Serafina. Stop. Her voice shook. You don't get to do this. You don't get to act like you care. You made it very clear what I was to you. A debt, a transaction, you got your year. The contract's over. I don't owe you anything. This isn't about the contract. Then what is it about? Silence. Then quieter. I can't protect you if you won't let me. I don't need your protection. You have no idea what you're in the middle of. Then tell me. Another silence. Longer this time. Come back, he said finally. We'll talk. No. Serafina. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the desk, forced herself to breathe. The phone rang again. She didn't answer. It rang 6 times, then stopped. Serafina grabbed the prayer book, shoved it into her bag along with the document tube, and killed the lights. She locked the studio door behind her and stepped out into the rain. The apartment was small. 3rd floor of a walk-up on Paulina, 1 bedroom, kitchen the size of a closet. She'd signed the lease the day after she walked out of Roman's house. It was hers. That mattered more than the water stain on the ceiling or the radiator that clanked like a dying engine. She climbed the stairs, unlocked the door, stepped inside. The lights were already on. Serafina stopped in the doorway, her pulse spiking. A man sat on her couch. Older, 50s maybe, gray suit, hands folded neatly in his lap. He looked up when she came in, smiled. Ms. Vale, he said. Sorry for the intrusion. She didn't move. Who are you? A friend of your father's. My father's dead. I know. Terrible loss. He was a good man. Get out of my apartment. The man's smile didn't waver. I just need a minute of your time. I'm calling the police. I wouldn't do that. Why not? Because you're smarter than that. Serafina's hand tightened on the doorframe. The man stood, brushed imaginary dust from his jacket. Your father had something that belonged to me, he said. I'd like it back. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Get out. Serafina. He said her name like he was tasting it. I'm trying to be polite, but there are other people looking for the same thing I am, and they won't be as courteous. I don't have anything. Your father was restoring a prayer book, 16th century, Flemish. Do you know where it is? Her mouth went dry. The man saw it. His smile widened. I'll take that as a yes. It's just a book, Serafina said. It's not worth anything. It's worth quite a lot, actually, to the right people. I don't know what you think is in there. I know exactly what's in there. And so do you, if you've been doing your job. She didn't answer. The man took a step closer. I can make this very easy. You give me the book. I walk away. You never see me again. And if I don't? Then things get complicated. Serafina's heart hammered in her chest. She thought about the folded paper hidden in the binding, the names, the dates, Moretti. I need time, she said. You don't have time. One day, the man studied her. 6 hours. That's not enough. It'll have to be. He pulled a card from his pocket, set it on the coffee table. Call that number when you're ready. Don't make me come looking for you. He walked past her, paused in the doorway. Your father made a mistake getting involved in things he didn't understand, he said. Don't make the same one. Then he was gone. Serafina stood in the middle of her apartment, shaking, staring at the business card on the table. No name, just a phone number. She grabbed her phone, dialed. Roman picked up on his first ring. "I'm listening," he said. "Someone just broke into my apartment." A pause. Then, "Are you hurt?" "No." "Are they still there?" "No, they left, but they're coming back." "Where are you?" She told him the address. "Stay there, I'm sending someone." "Roman, don't argue. Just stay inside and don't open the door for anyone." "What's happening?" "I'll explain when you're safe." "I'm not going back to your house." "I'm not asking you to." His voice was hard, controlled. "But you're not staying there alone." "I don't need Serafina." He said her name like a command. "For once in your life, stop being stubborn and let me help you." She closed her eyes. "Who's coming?" "Dante. He'll be there in 10 minutes." "And then what?" "Then we figure out who wants you dead and why." The line went dead. Serafina sank onto the couch, still holding the phone, and tried to make sense of the past hour. Her father was dead. A stranger had broken into her apartment. Roman Moretti was sending someone to protect her. And somewhere in the damaged pages of a 500-year-old prayer book was a secret someone was willing to kill for. She pulled the book from her bag, opened it to the loose binding, pulled out the folded paper. Her father's handwriting stared back at her. Victor Castiglione. November 2019. $340,000. Martin Cross. January 2020. $280,000. Luca Devane. April 2020. $150,000. And at the bottom, Moretti. Chicago. Serafina's hands trembled. She didn't know what the names meant, didn't know what the numbers represented, but she knew her father had been afraid, knew he'd hidden this paper where only someone trained to restore books would find it, knew he'd died 2 days later. A knock at the door made her jump. "Ms. Vale?" A man's voice, calm and even. "It's Dante Sorrento. Mr. Moretti sent me." Serafina shoved the paper back into the book into her bag, and crossed to the door. She looked through the peephole. A man in a dark coat stood in the hallway, tall, broad-shouldered, expressionless. "How do I know you're who you say you are?" she called through the door. "You don't, but if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't knock." "Fair point." She opened the door. Dante Sorrento looked like he'd been carved from stone. Flat gray eyes, no smile, posture like a soldier. He glanced past her into the apartment, scanning. "You alone?" he asked. "Yes." "Anyone follow you home?" "I don't know. I don't think so." He stepped inside, closed the door, locked it. "Pack a bag. You're leaving." "I'm not going to Roman's." "I'm not taking you to Roman's." "Then where?" "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." Dante's expression didn't change. "You can argue or you can pack. Either way, we're leaving in 5 minutes." Serafina stared at him. "Does Roman always send people to order women around?" "Only the ones too stubborn to save themselves." "I don't need saving." "Someone broke into your apartment an hour ago. What do you call that?" She didn't have a good answer. Dante nodded toward the bedroom. 4 minutes. Serafina grabbed a duffel bag, threw in clothes, toiletries, the leather document tube. She kept the prayer book in her shoulder bag, close. When she came back out, Dante was standing by the window, looking down at the street. "We've got company," he said. "What?" "Black sedan. 2 men inside. They've been sitting across the street since I got here." Serafina's stomach clenched. "The man who was here, he said I had 6 hours. Guess he changed his mind." Dante pulled a gun from under his coat, checked the chamber. "Back door? Fire escape. But it's old. I don't know if it'll hold." "It'll hold. Let's go." They moved fast. Down the back hallway, through the narrow door that led to the fire escape. The metal stairs groaned under their weight, rust flaking off in the rain. Halfway down, Serafina heard shouting from above. "Move," Dante said. They hit the alley running. Dante's car was parked 2 blocks over, a dark SUV with tinted windows. He shoved her into the passenger seat, slid behind the wheel, and pulled into traffic before she'd even buckled her seatbelt. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Out of the city." I can't just leave. I have work. You have people trying to kill you. Dante took a corner fast, tires squealing. Work can wait. Serafina twisted in her seat, looking back through the rain-streaked window. No headlights following. Not yet. Who were they? She asked. Don't know, but they're not with Roman. How do you know? Because if they were, you'd already be safe. She faced forward, gripping the edge of the seat. What does he want from me? You'll have to ask him. I'm asking you. Dante's jaw tightened. He wants you alive, that's all I know. They drove in silence for a while. Rain drumming on the roof, wipers slashing across the windshield. Serafina's mind raced. Her father's notes, the prayer book, Roman's phone call, the man in her apartment. I need to know what's happening, she said. So does Roman. Then why didn't he come himself? Dante glanced at her. Because right now the safest place for him is as far from you as possible. That doesn't make sense. It does if someone's trying to make it look like he's the one hunting you. Serafina's breath caught. What? Think about it. You're his wife. You leave without warning. Suddenly people are breaking into your apartment, following you. Who's the first person everyone's going to blame? But he didn't. I know that. You know that. But the people watching, they don't. Serafina pressed her hands to her face. This is insane. Welcome to Chicago. They crossed the river, headed north. The city lights blurred into rain and darkness. Where are we going? Serafina asked again. Safe house, north of Evanston, off the grid. For how long? Until Roman figures out who's after you and why. She looked at him. You really think he can do that? Dante's expression was unreadable. If anyone can, it's him, he. The safe house was a cabin buried in the woods an hour north of the city. No neighbors, no streetlights, just trees and silence and the rain turning to mist. Dante parked in front of a garage, killed the engine. Stay here, he said. He got out, checked the perimeter, came back. Clear, let's go. Inside, the cabin was sparse. A couch, a table, a kitchenette, one bedroom, one bath. Security monitors mounted on the wall showing feeds from cameras outside. You'll be safe here, Dante said. Doors are reinforced. Windows are bulletproof. If anyone shows up, you'll see them coming. Serafina dropped her bag on the couch. How long do I have to stay? Until Roman calls. And if he doesn't? He will. Dante moved to the door. Serafina followed. Wait, she said. You're leaving? I've got work to do. What am I supposed to do? Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't call anyone. Don't leave. That's it? That's it. He started to go. She caught his arm. Dante, she said, tell me the truth. Am I in danger because of something I have? Or because of who I married? He looked at her for a long moment. Both, he said. Then he was gone. Serafina stood alone in the cabin, listening to the sound of his car disappearing into the night. She locked the door, checked the windows, pulled the prayer book from her bag. Her father's note stared back at her. Moretti, Chicago. She thought about the last thing Roman had said to her before she walked out of his house. I never loved you. Don't pretend this was anything more than a contract. She thought about the way his voice had sounded on the phone tonight. I can't protect you if you won't let me. She thought about the man in her apartment. Your father made a mistake getting involved in things he didn't understand. Serafina sat down on the couch, opened the prayer book to the first page, and started reading, not the prayers, the margins. Because her father had been a restorer, not a believer, and if he'd hidden something in this book, it wouldn't be in the words everyone could see. It would be in the places only someone like her would know to look. She worked slowly, carefully, turning pages, checking bindings, examining stitching. An hour passed. Then 2. And then, tucked between the pages near the back, pressed flat and nearly invisible, she found it. A photograph. Old, faded, creased down the middle. It showed 2 men standing outside a building she didn't recognize. One was older, gray-haired, sharp-eyed. The other was younger, mid-30s maybe, handsome in a cold, controlled way. She didn't recognize the older man. But the younger one, Serafina's breath stopped. Roman Moretti. Except this wasn't the Roman she knew. This was years ago. Different clothes, different posture, different life. She flipped the photo over. On the back, in her father's handwriting, July 2015, before the fire. Serafina stared at the words until they blurred. Before the fire. What fire? She set the photo aside, kept searching, and found the second note. This one wasn't a list. It was a letter, short, addressed to no one. If you're reading this, I'm dead. I didn't want to get involved, but Victor came to me because he knew I could be trusted, and I couldn't say no. The ledger is real. The names are real. The betrayal goes deeper than anyone knows. Roman Moretti is not the enemy, but someone close to him is. Someone who's been bleeding his organization dry for years. Someone who ordered the fire. Someone who killed Victor's family to keep the secret buried. I hid the proof because I didn't know who else to trust. If you find this, take it to Roman. Not to the police, not to the press, to Roman. He's the only one who can finish this. Tell him I'm sorry I couldn't do it myself. Serafina read it 3 times. Her father hadn't been restoring a prayer book. He'd been hiding evidence. Evidence of a betrayal inside Roman Moretti's organization. Evidence someone had killed to protect. She thought about the man in her apartment, the way he'd smiled when he'd asked about the book. I know exactly what's in there, and so do you. She thought about Roman's voice on the phone. You walked out of my house carrying something you shouldn't have. He'd known. Maybe not the details, but he'd known she was in danger, and he'd tried to warn her. Serafina stood, paced the cabin, her mind racing. Her father had been murdered. She was sure of it now. The prayer book wasn't just a restoration project. It was a target, and she'd walked out of Roman's house carrying the evidence that could tear his organization apart, or save it. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, heart pounding. A text from an unknown number. You have 2 hours. Bring the book to the address I gave you. Come alone. If you don't, people you care about start dying. Serafina stared at the screen. Then another text came through. This one had a photo attached. Miguel, tied to a chair in the studio, blood on his face, terror in his eyes. Serafina's knees buckled. She sank onto the couch, hands shaking, bile rising in her throat. 2 hours. She looked at the security monitors, the empty woods, the locked doors. She thought about what Dante had said. Don't leave, don't call anyone, wait for Roman. But Miguel didn't have time to wait. Serafina grabbed her bag, shoved the prayer book inside, and ran for the door. She didn't see the second car pull up outside until it was too late. The door burst open. 3 men, guns drawn. Serafina stumbled back, her bag slipping from her shoulder. The lead man smiled. Going somewhere? She recognized his voice. The man from her apartment. Please, she whispered. Don't hurt him. I'll give you the book. Just don't hurt Miguel. The man's smile widened. Oh, sweetheart. It's way too late for that. He raised the gun, and the world exploded into noise and darkness and the smell of gunpowder in the rain. The gunshot shattered the window behind her. Serafina hit the floor as glass exploded inward, her bag skidding across the hardwood. The lead man cursed, dove sideways. His 2 companions returned fire through the broken window, muzzle flashes lighting up the cabin like a strobe. Someone was shooting at them from outside. Serafina crawled toward her bag, fingers closing around the strap. Another burst of gunfire tore through the doorway. One of the men went down hard, clutching his shoulder, screaming. Get her! The lead man shouted. Hands grabbed Serafina's ankle. She kicked backward, connected with something soft. The grip loosened. She scrambled to her feet, ran for the bedroom. The shooting stopped. In the sudden silence, she heard footsteps. Heavy, fast, coming from the front of the cabin. Serafina! Roman's voice. She froze in the bedroom doorway. Roman Moretti stepped through the shattered front door like he owned the wreckage. Dark coat soaked through, gun in his hand, expression carved from stone. Behind him, 2 more men fanned out, weapons raised. The lead man from her apartment was on his knees, hands behind his head. His companion with the shoulder wound was curled on the floor, groaning. The 3rd man was dead. Roman's eyes found Serafina across the room. You hurt? He asked. She shook her head, couldn't find words. Roman turned to the man kneeling on the floor. Who sent you? The man said nothing. Roman crossed the room in 3 strides, pressed the barrel of his gun against the man's temple. I won't ask twice. You're going to kill me anyway. Maybe. But I can make it quick, or I can make it last. Your choice. The man's jaw worked. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye. I don't know his name. I just follow orders. Whose orders? Comes through a broker. I never meet the client. Convenient. It's the truth. Roman cocked the gun. The man flinched. Wait, he said quickly. Wait. I don't know his name, but I know what he wants. The book. The one her father was working on. That's all I was told. Get the book. Get the girl. Don't let Moretti interfere. Roman's expression didn't change. And Miguel Torres? The man hesitated. What about Miguel? Serafina's voice cracked. She stepped forward. Where is he? The man looked at her. Something like pity flickered across his face. He's dead, he said. They killed him this afternoon. Before I even got to your apartment. The photo was staged. He was already gone. Serafina's legs went numb. Miguel, dead. The room tilted. Roman caught her before she hit the floor, one arm around her waist, steadying her. She heard herself making a sound, something broken and raw, but it felt like it was coming from someone else. Get him out of here, Roman said to one of his men. Take him to the warehouse. I'll deal with him later. They dragged the kneeling man out. The one with the shoulder wound went with them, stumbling, pale. Roman guided Serafina to the couch, sat her down. She couldn't stop shaking. Breathe, he said. They killed him. They killed Miguel. I know. He didn't have anything to do with this. He didn't even know. I know. Serafina looked up at him. His face was wet from the rain, hard lines and cold control. But his eyes held something she'd never seen there before. Guilt. This is my fault, she whispered. No. I left your house. I brought the book to the studio. If I just... Serafina. He said her name like a command. This is not your fault. You didn't kill Miguel. They did. Because of something my father hid. Because of something connected to you. Roman's jaw tightened. He stood, paced to the broken window, stared out into the rain. Your father was a good man, he said quietly. He got caught in something he shouldn't have, and I didn't protect him. What are you talking about? Roman turned to face her. You found the note. The one in the prayer book. It wasn't a question. Serafina pulled the book from her bag, held it up. Tell me what this is. It's evidence. Of what? A betrayal. Inside my organization. Someone's been stealing from me for years, skimming money, selling information, setting up my people to take falls they didn't earn. And my father knew about it? Your father was approached by someone who wanted to expose it. A man named Victor Castiglione. Victor worked for me. Good man, loyal. He found proof of what was happening, and he knew if he came to me directly, the traitor would find out and kill him. So he went to your father instead. Serafina's hands tightened on the book. Why my father? Because Victor's daughter collected rare books. Your father had restored pieces for her. Victor trusted him. What happened to Victor? Roman's expression darkened. There was a fire. July 2015. Victor's house. His wife and daughter were inside. They didn't make it out. Serafina felt sick. The note said someone ordered the fire. They did? Who? That's what I've been trying to figure out for 7 years. She stared at him. And you think the proof is in this book? I know it is. Victor told your father he'd hidden a ledger, names, transactions, dates, everything needed to expose the traitor. Your father was supposed to give it to me, but he died before he could. He didn't die. He was murdered. Roman nodded slowly. I know. You knew and you didn't. Serafina stood, anger flooding through her. You knew someone killed my father and you didn't tell me? I didn't have proof. You had suspicions. You could have warned me. You could have... I married you to protect you. The words hung in the air between them. Serafina froze. What? Roman's hands curled into fists at his sides. Your father owed me money, a lot of it. When he died, the debt transferred to you. Standard contract. But I knew what had happened to him. Knew someone was cleaning up loose ends. And I knew you'd be next. So you... what? Married me out of charity? I married you because it was the only way to keep you alive. If you were my wife, under my protection, no one could touch you without starting a war. Serafina's chest felt tight. You told me you didn't love me. I don't. The words still stung, even though she'd heard them before. Then why do you care if I live or die? She asked. Roman's eyes met hers. Because your father was a good man who died trying to help me, and I don't let good people die for nothing. That's it? Obligation? That's enough. Serafina wanted to scream, wanted to throw the book at him, wanted to walk out into the rain and disappear, but Miguel was dead, her father was dead, and she was holding the only thing that might make their deaths mean something. Fine, she said. You want the ledger? Let's find it. She sat back down, opened the prayer book, started pulling it apart. Roman watched her. You know how to do this? My father taught me how to restore books. That means I know how to take them apart. She worked methodically, checking every page, every fold, every hidden space. Roman stood behind her, silent. After 20 minutes, she found it. Not in the binding this time. In the pages themselves. Someone had carefully separated 2 sheets of vellum, creating a pocket between them. Inside, folded thin as tissue, was a leather notebook no bigger than her palm. Serafina pulled it free, opened it. Page after page of cramped handwriting. Names, dates, dollar amounts, locations. And at the front, a single sentence in neat block letters. Ledger of payments made to informant Bishop from Moretti. Organization accounts 2013 to 2020. Roman took the notebook, flipped through it. His face went pale. Bishop, he said quietly. You know who that is? It's a code name. I've heard it before. Someone in my inner circle, someone close. How close? Roman didn't answer. He kept reading, his jaw getting tighter with every page. Finally, he closed the notebook. We need to go. Where? Chicago. I need to verify this, cross-reference it with my own records. Roman, those men knew where I was. They found me in less than 3 hours. How did they even… She stopped. Roman's eyes narrowed. What? Dante knew I was here. He's the only one. Dante's been with me for 12 years. He's not the traitor. Then how did they find me? Roman pulled out his phone, dialed. It rang 4 times, went to voicemail. He tried again, same result. His expression went cold. Get your things. We're leaving now. They took Roman's car, a black sedan with bulletproof glass and an engine that sounded like a threat. One of his men stayed behind to clean up the cabin. The other rode with them, silent in the back seat. Serafina watched the trees blur past in the darkness. If Dante's compromised, I don't know what he is, but I'm not taking chances. Where are we going? Somewhere no one knows about, not even my own people. You have a place like that? Roman's hands tightened on the wheel. I have a lot of places like that. They drove for an hour, winding through back roads and small towns that looked half dead in the rain. Finally, Roman pulled off onto a gravel drive that led to a warehouse district near the river. He parked behind a building with boarded windows and a rusted sign. Killed the engine. Stay close, he said. Inside, the warehouse was dark and cold. Roman led her through a maze of crates and old machinery to a freight elevator in the back. They rode down 2 floors into a basement that smelled like concrete and oil. The space below was nothing like the wreckage above. Clean, well lit, furnished like an apartment. Couch, table, kitchenette, a wall of monitors showing security feeds. Safe room, Roman said. Built it 5 years ago. Off the books. No one knows it exists. Serafina set her bag on the table. How long do we stay here? Until I figure out who's trying to kill you and why. You already know why. The ledger. The ledger's part of it, but there's more. Someone's been moving pieces for years, setting this up. They didn't just want the evidence, they wanted you. Why me? Roman turned to look at her. Because you're the only person who can read it. Anyone can read a list of names and numbers. Not anyone can verify it. Your father hid codes in the margins, references to specific restoration techniques, things only someone trained in his methods would recognize. You're the key. Serafina's stomach dropped. So I'm not just a witness. You're proof. Without you, the ledger is just a book. With you, it's a smoking gun. She sank onto the couch. They're not going to stop. No. Even if I give them the book, they'll kill me to make sure I can't testify. Yes. So what do I do? Roman sat down across from her. You help me find Bishop. We expose him. We end this. And then? Then you're free. Serafina laughed, bitter. Free, right, because that worked out so well the last time I left. This time will be different. How? Because this time, I'll make sure you stay alive. She met his eyes. Why do you care? I told you, no. Don't give me the line about obligation. You don't marry someone, let them live in your house for 11 months, and then send armed men to protect them just because you feel guilty. What's the real reason? Roman's jaw worked. He looked away. Your father came to my house the week before he died, he said finally. He told me someone had approached him, asked him to hide something. He didn't know what it was yet, didn't know if it was real, but he was scared. And he asked me for help. What did you say? I told him to bring me the evidence. I'd handle it. And? And he died before he could. Serafina's throat tightened. So this is guilt. This is me finishing what I should have finished 7 years ago. That's not an answer. Roman stood, paced to the monitors. You want the truth? Fine. Your father was one of the only honest men I'd ever met. He didn't lie, didn't cheat, didn't bend. And when he came to me for help, I didn't take him seriously enough. I thought he was overreacting, thought I had time. I was wrong, and he died because I didn't move fast enough. That's not your fault. It is. And when you showed up at my door after the funeral, barely holding it together, drowning in his debt, I knew I couldn't let the same thing happen to you. Serafina stood, crossed to him. So, you married me? Yes. And you told me you didn't love me because, what? You thought it would be easier? Roman's eyes locked on hers. I told you I didn't love you because it was true. I don't do love. I do control. I do power. I do deals. That's all I know. Then why does it feel like you're lying? He didn't answer. Serafina stepped closer. You called me 3 times the night I left. You sent Dante to protect me. You stormed into that cabin like you were ready to kill everyone in it. That's not obligation, Roman. That's something else. Don't. Don't what? Don't ask questions you don't want to answer? Don't make this into something it's not. Then tell me what it is. Roman's control cracked. Just for a second. Just enough. I don't know, he said, voice low and rough. I don't know what this is. I just know that when Dante called and said you were gone, I couldn't breathe. And when I saw those men in your apartment, I wanted to burn the whole city down. And I don't feel things like that. I can't. He stopped, turned away. Serafina's heart hammered. Roman, get some sleep, he said. We've got work to do in the morning. He walked to the far side of the room, put distance between them. Serafina stood there, shaking, and didn't know if it was fear or anger or something she didn't have a name for. She went to the small bedroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed. Miguel was dead. Her father was dead. She was trapped underground with a man who'd married her to keep her alive and couldn't admit he might actually care if she lived or died. And somewhere in Chicago, someone called Bishop was orchestrating all of it. Serafina pulled out the ledger, started reading by the light of a single lamp. The names meant nothing to her, but the dates, those she recognized. November 2019, the month her father had started acting paranoid. January 2020, the month he'd stopped sleeping. April 2020, the month Victor Castiglione's family had died. June 2020, the month her father's heart had supposedly given out. She cross-referenced the payments with the notes her father had left in the margins of the prayer book. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Every payment to Bishop corresponded with a death, a fire, a car accident, a sudden heart attack. Bishop wasn't just stealing money, he was cleaning up witnesses. And the last entry in the ledger was dated 2 weeks ago, a payment of $500,000. Next to it, in Victor's handwriting, final payment, Serafina Vale. Her blood went cold. Someone had paid Bishop $500,000 to kill her, before she'd even left Roman's house, before she'd even found the ledger, which meant whoever wanted her dead had known she'd eventually find it. Serafina stood, walked back into the main room. Roman was at the monitors, reviewing footage. They paid for my death 2 weeks ago, she said. He turned. What? She showed him the ledger entry. Roman's face went white. That's before you left. I know. Which means someone in your house knew I'd find the evidence eventually, and they wanted me dead before I could use it. Roman grabbed his phone, started dialing. Who are you calling? Serafina asked. Everyone. I'm pulling my people in. If Bishop's in my inner circle, I'm going to find him. Roman, if he's that close to you, calling people in is going to tip him off. I don't care. I'm done playing defense. He made 4 calls, short, clipped, gave an address, a time, hung up. They'll be here in an hour, he said. Who? The people I trust, my captains, my advisors, everyone who has access to my accounts. That could be 20 people, 15, and one of them is Bishop. Serafina's stomach twisted. You're going to confront them. I'm going to end this. What if Bishop doesn't show? Then I'll know who it is. An hour later, the freight elevator groaned to life. Roman positioned himself near the door, gun in hand. Serafina stayed back, heart pounding. The elevator doors opened. A man stepped out. Late 50s, gray suit, calm expression. Roman lowered his gun slightly. Carmine. Carmine Lazio had been Roman's second in command for as long as Serafina had been alive. She'd met him twice, briefly, during her time in Roman's house. Quiet, controlled, always 2 steps behind Roman. You called, Carmine said. I came. Where's everyone else? On their way. I was closest. Roman nodded. Wait upstairs. I'll bring everyone down together. Carmine's eyes flicked to Serafina. Is she safe here? She's fine. Good. Carmine turned back to the elevator. I'll wait. The doors closed. Serafina exhaled. He seems calm. Carmine's always calm. Is that good or bad? Roman didn't answer. Over the next 30 minutes, more people arrived. Dante showed up, face bruised, limping. He caught Serafina's eye and nodded once. She didn't know if that meant he was innocent or just good at pretending. By the time the last person arrived, there were 14 people crowded into the warehouse above. Roman led them all down into the safe room. They filed in slowly, confused, wary. Some of them Serafina recognized. Most she didn't. Roman stood at the head of the table, face carved from stone. One of you is a traitor, he said. The room went silent. For 7 years, someone in this room has been stealing from me, selling information, setting up my people to die. And I'm done pretending I don't know. He slammed the ledger onto the table. This is proof. Names, dates, payments, every transaction made to an informant called Bishop. And Bishop is in this room. No one moved. Roman's eyes swept over them. I'm giving you one chance. Come forward now. Confess. And I'll make it quick. Silence. No? Roman's voice dropped. Fine. We'll do this the hard way. He pulled out his phone, projected an image onto the wall. A bank transfer. Recent. $500,000 moved from one account to another. This payment was made 2 weeks ago, Roman said. Authorization code matches someone in this room, someone with access to my offshore accounts. He changed the image. Another transfer. Then another. With each one, someone in the room relaxed, cleared. Serafina watched their faces, watched the fear shift to relief as they were eliminated one by one, until only 3 people were left. Dante, Carmine, and a woman Serafina didn't recognize. Roman looked at each of them. One of you authorized these payments. One of you is Bishop. Dante stepped forward. Check my codes. I've got nothing to hide. Roman pulled up his access logs. Clean. Dante was cleared. The woman went next. Also clean. That left Carmine. Roman's face went blank. Carmine. Carmine didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there, hands folded, expression calm. Check the logs, he said quietly. Roman did. Clean. Serafina's heart sank. Then who? A phone buzzed. Everyone looked around. It was coming from Serafina's bag. She pulled it out. Unknown number. Text message. Wrong room, Roman. Bishop isn't there. But I am. Check the cameras. Roman spun toward the monitors. Every screen showed the same thing. armed men. Surrounding the warehouse, dozens of them, and standing at the front, smiling into the camera, was the man from Serafina's apartment. He waved. Then the screens went black, the lights went out, and the shooting started. Gunfire tore through the ceiling, concrete dust rained down, someone screamed. Roman grabbed Serafina, dragged her behind the table. "Stay down!" His men scattered, pulling weapons, returning fire through the darkness. Muzzle flashes lit the room in bursts of white light. The air smelled like cordite and fear. Serafina pressed herself against the floor, hands over her head. The ledger was still on the table above her, exposed. She reached up, grabbed it, shoved it into her bag. "We need to move!" Dante shouted from somewhere in the chaos. "Where?" Roman's voice cut through the noise. "They've got the exits covered. Then we make a new one." An explosion rocked the building. The freight elevator shaft collapsed inward, spilling rubble and twisted metal across the floor. Serafina's ears rang. She couldn't hear anything except a high-pitched whine. Roman hauled her to her feet, his mouth moving. She couldn't make out the words. He pointed toward the back wall, started pulling her that direction. Carmine appeared beside them, gun raised, firing at shapes moving through the smoke. "There's a service tunnel, leads to the river." "Can we make it?" Roman shouted. "Do we have a choice?" They ran. Serafina stumbled over debris, her bag slamming against her hip. Behind them, the shooting intensified. Someone cried out. She didn't look back. The service tunnel was narrow, low-ceilinged, pitch black. Roman had a flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, reflecting off standing water on the concrete floor. "How far?" Serafina gasped. "Half a mile. Maybe more." They splashed through the water, feet echoing in the enclosed space. Behind them, footsteps. Shouts. The enemy was coming. "Move faster!" Carmine barked. Serafina's lungs burned. Her legs felt like lead. But she pushed harder because stopping meant dying, and she'd come too far to die in a tunnel underneath Chicago. The beam of Roman's flashlight caught something ahead. A ladder. Rusted metal rungs leading up to a hatch. "There!" Roman pointed. They reached the ladder. Dante went first, climbing fast, shoving at the hatch. It didn't budge. "It's locked from the outside," he yelled down. "Break it!" Dante braced himself, slammed his shoulder into the metal. Once, twice. On the third hit, something gave. The hatch flew open. Rain poured in. "Go!" Roman pushed Serafina toward the ladder. "Climb!" She climbed. Her hand slipped on wet metal. She felt Roman's hand on her back, steadying her. Then she was through, pulling herself out onto a street she didn't recognize. Dark, empty. Industrial buildings on both sides. The river close enough to smell. Roman came up next, then Dante, then Carmine. Behind them, gunfire echoed up from the tunnel. "They're coming through," Dante said. Roman looked around, calculating. "Split up. Carmine, take the north route. Dante, south. I'll take Serafina east." "That's a mistake," Carmine said. "You need backup. I need them thinking we're in 3 different places. Go." Carmine hesitated, then nodded. He and Dante disappeared into the rain, running in opposite directions. Roman grabbed Serafina's hand. "Stay with me." They ran through alleys and loading docks, past chain-link fences and abandoned cars. The rain came down harder. Serafina's clothes were soaked through. Her breath came in ragged gasps. "Where are we going?" she managed. "River House. It's close." "What's a river house?" "Old safe location. No one's used it in years. They won't think to look there." "Are you sure?" "No." They cut across a parking lot, ducked under a railroad bridge. The river opened up in front of them, black water churning under the storm. Roman led her along the bank to a structure that looked like it had been condemned for decades. Concrete walls, boarded windows, graffiti layered thick as paint. He pulled one of the boards free, slipped inside. Serafina followed. Inside was dry. Relatively. Water dripped through cracks in the ceiling, but the main space was intact, old furniture covered in tarps. A table. Chairs. A couch that had seen better years. Roman pulled the board back into place, locked it from the inside with a length of chain. "We're safe?" Serafina asked. "For now." She sank onto the couch, shaking. Exhaustion hit her all at once. Her legs gave out. She put her head in her hands. Roman pulled off his wet coat, tossed it aside. He was bleeding from a cut on his arm. He didn't seem to notice. "Let me see that," Serafina said. "It's nothing." "Let me see it." He sat down beside her. She took his arm, examined the wound. Not deep, but it needed cleaning. "Do you have a first aid kit in this place?" she asked. "Cabinet by the sink." She found it. Old supplies, but they'd work. She came back, started cleaning the cut with antiseptic. Roman didn't flinch. "They knew we'd be there," Serafina said quietly. "At the warehouse?" "Yes." "Which means someone told them?" "Yes." "Someone in that room?" Roman's jaw tightened. "Maybe. Or someone listening." "You think the safe room was bugged?" "I think I don't know who to trust anymore." Serafina wrapped gauze around his arm, tied it off. Her hands were steadier than she felt. "The logs were clean," she said. "Carmine, Dante, that woman, all of them checked out." "Logs can be faked." "Can they?" Roman looked at her. "If you know what you're doing, you can fake anything." "So we're back to square one." "Not quite." Roman pulled out his phone, pulled up a file. "Before the lights went out, I downloaded the full transaction history, every payment made to Bishop over the last 7 years. And there's a pattern. Payments always go through the same intermediary account, offshore, untraceable, but the timing matches someone's schedule." "Whose?" Roman's expression darkened. "I need to verify something first." He stood, paced to the window, looked out through a crack in the boards. Serafina watched him. "You already know, don't you?" "I have a suspicion." "Tell me." "Not until I'm sure." "Roman, I've been wrong before. I'm not accusing someone without proof. People are dying. Miguel's dead. My father's dead. How much more proof do you need?" Roman spun to face her. "You think I don't know that? You think I'm not carrying every single one of those deaths? I know what's at stake. But if I'm wrong, if I accuse the wrong person, Bishop disappears and we never find him. So I need to be sure." Serafina stood, cross to him. "Then let me help. You've done enough. I'm the only one who can read my father's codes. You said so yourself. Let me look at the transactions. Let me cross-reference them with the ledger. Maybe I'll see something you missed." Roman studied her for a long moment. Then he handed her the phone. She sat back down, pulled out the ledger, started comparing. The work was painstaking. Every transaction had a reference number. Every reference number corresponded to a date in the ledger. And every date had a note in the margins, written in her father's shorthand. She'd learned that shorthand when she was 12, sitting in his studio, watching him work. A language of symbols and abbreviations that only made sense if you understood restoration techniques. Now reading it felt like hearing his voice. November 2019, payment of $340,000. Margin note, gilt frame repair, client canceled. She checked Roman's records. November 2019, a shipment of art pieces had been intercepted. Roman's people blamed customs, but the timing matched. January 2020, payment of $280,000. Margin note, canvas relining, rushed job. Roman's records, a warehouse raid. 3 men arrested. One of them had flipped, given testimony. The timeline fit. April 2020, payment of $150,000. Margin note, binding replacement, fire damage. The fire, Victor's house. His family. Serafina's hands shook. She kept reading. Every payment, every betrayal, every death. And then she found it. A note dated 3 months ago, tucked in the back of the ledger. Not in her father's handwriting, in Victor's. If you're reading this, it means I'm dead, and your father couldn't finish what we started. Bishop is careful, paranoid. He never meets in person, never uses his real name. But he made one mistake. He trusted someone to deliver payments. A courier. Someone close to Moretti who could move money without raising suspicion. I followed the courier once. Took a photo. It's hidden in the prayer book. Use it. End this. Serafina's breath caught. She grabbed the prayer book, started tearing through pages she'd already checked. "What is it?" Roman asked. "There's another photo. Victor hid it. A picture of the courier." "Where?" "I don't know. I already went through this whole book. I didn't see—" She stopped. The binding. She'd checked the binding for the ledger, but she hadn't checked the cover itself. She turned the book over, examined the backboard. The leather was worn, cracked, but there, along the edge, she felt something. A ridge. Barely noticeable. She grabbed a knife from the first aid kit, carefully pried up the leather. Underneath, pressed flat against the wood, was a photograph. She pulled it free. The image was grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. A man standing outside a bank. Dark coat, gray hair, carrying a briefcase. Serafina's blood went cold. "No," she whispered. Roman crossed to her. "What?" She handed him the photo. He looked at it. His face went white. "That's not possible," he said. "Who is it?" Roman's hand tightened on the photo. Carmine. The silence in the room was absolute. Serafina stared at the image. Carmine Lazio, Roman's second in command, the man who'd been by his side for decades. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I've known him for 20 years. I'd recognize him anywhere. Then he's Bishop." Roman sank into a chair, the photo still in his hand. He looked like he'd been shot. 20 years, he said quietly. 20 years he's been with me. I trusted him with everything. My accounts, my operations, my life. Roman, he was there when my father died. He helped me build this organization from the ground up. And the whole time, he was bleeding it dry. Serafina knelt beside him. "We have proof now. We can stop him." "He's gone. The moment we split up, he disappeared. He knows we're onto him." "Then we find him." "How?" "He's had 7 years to prepare for this. He's got money, resources, safe houses all over the world. We'll never—" Serafina grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. "Listen to me. My father spent the last year of his life trying to expose Carmine. Miguel died protecting what my father found. I am not letting their deaths mean nothing. We are going to find him, and we are going to end this. Do you understand?" Roman's eyes searched hers. For a moment, she saw something crack in that cold, controlled mask he wore. "I should have seen it," he said. "All the signs were there. The way he always knew where to be. The way he survived raids that killed everyone else. The way he pushed me to make decisions that put my people in danger. I should have known. You trusted him. That's not a weakness. In my world, it is. Then your world is broken." Roman's hand came up, covered hers. His palm was warm against her cold fingers. "Why are you still here?" he asked quietly. "You could have run. The moment we left that warehouse, you could have disappeared, taken the ledger, gone to the police. You'd be safe. The police can't protect me from someone like Carmine. That's not why you stayed." Serafina's throat tightened. "No." "Then why?" She didn't have a good answer. Didn't have words for the feeling that had been growing in her chest since the moment Roman had stormed into that cabin like he'd go through hell to get to her. "Because you came for me," she said finally. "When those men had me. When I thought I was going to die. You came for me. And I don't know what that means, but I know I'm not ready to walk away from it." Roman's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "You should. Walk away. Before this gets worse." "It's already worse, and I'm still here." "Serafina, don't tell me to go. Don't tell me you're protecting me by pushing me away. I'm tired of being protected. I want to fight back." "You don't know what you're asking for." "Then show me." Something shifted in his eyes, something dangerous and desperate and entirely human. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead against hers. "If we do this, if we go after Carmine, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be safe. And I can't promise you'll survive." "I know. And you're still willing to help?" "Yes." Roman's hand slid to the back of her neck, his fingers tangled in her wet hair. "You're either the bravest person I've ever met, or the most reckless. Maybe both. Definitely both." He kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't soft or sweet or any of the things kisses were supposed to be. It was raw and desperate and tasted like rain and blood and 7 years of grief finally cracking open. Serafina kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. She didn't care that they were soaked through, didn't care that people were hunting them, didn't care about anything except the feeling of being alive in a world that kept trying to kill her. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Roman's eyes were dark. "That was a mistake," he said. "Probably. We should focus on finding Carmine." "We should. Neither of them moved. Serafina's phone buzzed. The spell broke. She pulled it out, checked the screen. Unknown number. Another text. You have something I want. I have something you need. Let's make a trade. Attached was a photo. Dante, tied to a chair, beaten, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. Serafina's stomach dropped. Roman. He looked at the phone. His expression went dead. When? Another text came through. Midnight, Riverwalk near Columbus. Come alone. Bring the ledger. If I see anyone else, Dante dies. Then I start working through your other people until you run out. Roman checked his watch. We've got 2 hours. It's a trap. Obviously. We can't just walk into it. We don't have a choice. If Carmine has Dante, he'll kill him, and then he'll kill everyone else I care about until I give him what he wants. So what do we do? Roman stood, paced the room. We give him what he wants. The ledger? A ledger. Serafina frowned. I don't understand. Carmine doesn't know exactly what's in that book. He knows it's evidence. He knows it's dangerous. But he doesn't know the details, so we make a copy, close enough to pass at first glance. We bring it to the meet. And then what? And then we get Dante back, and we kill Carmine. Just like that? Roman's eyes were cold. Just like that. They spent the next hour creating a fake ledger. Roman had supplies in the river house. Paper, ink, even leather binding materials. Apparently safe houses came equipped for forgery. Serafina worked carefully, copying her father's handwriting, matching the dates and numbers. But she changed key details, enough that if someone tried to verify the information, it would fall apart, but not enough that Carmine would notice in the dark, under pressure. When she finished, it looked convincing. Roman examined it, nodded. Good work. What if he checks? He won't have time. You sound very sure. I am. Serafina packed the fake ledger into her bag, kept the real one hidden in the prayer book. What about backup? You said we can't trust anyone. I have one person I can still call. Someone outside the organization. Who? A man who owes me a favor. He'll be there. You won't see him, but he'll be watching. That's not much of a plan. It's the only one we've got. They left the river house an hour before midnight. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with moisture. Clouds hung low over the city, blocking the stars. Roman led her through back streets and alleys, avoiding cameras, staying in the shadows. They reached the Riverwalk 10 minutes early. The area was deserted, parks and walking paths stretching along the water, empty at this hour. In the distance, city lights reflected off the river's surface. Stay behind me, Roman said. I'm not letting you face him alone. Serafina. We do this together or not at all. Roman's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. They walked out onto the path near Columbus, waited. At exactly midnight, a figure emerged from the darkness. Carmine Lazio looked the same as always, calm, controlled. Gray suit somehow still immaculate despite everything that had happened. He smiled when he saw them. Roman, he said pleasantly. Serafina, thank you for coming. Where's Dante? Roman's voice was flat. Safe. For now. Carmine gestured to a bench nearby. Shall we sit? We have things to discuss. We're not discussing anything. You let Dante go, I give you the ledger, we walk away. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Make it simple. Carmine's smile widened. You always were direct. I appreciated that about you. No pretense, no games, just raw, brutal honesty. Cut the bullshit, Carmine. What do you want? What I've always wanted. Control, power, the freedom to build something without answering to anyone. You had all of that. You were my second. You could have had anything. I could have had scraps, leftovers, whatever you decided to give me. Carmine's voice hardened. I spent 20 years cleaning up your messes, Roman. 20 years watching you make decisions that put us all at risk. And for what? Loyalty? Honor? Those things don't pay bills, they don't build empires. So you sold me out. I took what I was owed. You killed innocent people. I eliminated liabilities. Carmine's eyes flicked to Serafina. Like her father, like Victor, like anyone who got too close to the truth. Roman's hand moved toward his gun. Carmine raised his own weapon faster. I wouldn't, Carmine said.
My men have Dante. One word from me, he's dead. Where is he? Close. You'll see him soon. First, the ledger.
Serafina pulled the fake ledger from her bag, held it up. Let Dante go. Then you get this. Carmine studied her. You're braver than I expected. Your father was the same way. Stubborn, idealistic. It got him killed. My father was a good man. Your father was a fool. He thought he could expose me and walk away. He was wrong. You murdered him. I did what was necessary. Serafina's hands shook with rage. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. There's a difference. Carmine extended his hand. The ledger. Now. Serafina looked at Roman. He gave a small nod. She took a step forward, the ledger in her outstretched hand. Carmine reached for it. Gunfire erupted from the darkness. Carmine dove sideways, returning fire. Roman grabbed Serafina, pulled her down behind a concrete barrier. What the hell is that? She shouted over the noise. Back up. I thought you said one person. I lied. Men poured out from the shadows. Roman's men, 6 of them, armed, moving fast. Carmine's people returned fire from positions along the riverwalk. The night exploded into chaos. Roman pulled his gun, started shooting. Serafina stayed low, clutching her bag, trying not to get killed. Someone screamed. One of Carmine's men went down, then another. But Carmine was moving, fast and controlled, disappearing into the darkness along the river. Roman swore. He's running. What about Dante? Find him. I'm going after Carmine. Roman, wait! But he was already gone, sprinting into the darkness after Carmine. Serafina crouched behind the barrier, alone, while gunfire tore the night apart around her. She heard footsteps, close, coming toward her. She spun, ready to run. Dante stumbled out from behind a maintenance building, hands still bound, face bloody. Serafina, he gasped. Get out of here. It's a trap. Carmine has... An explosion cut him off. The maintenance building erupted in flames. The shockwave threw Serafina backward. She hit the ground hard, ears ringing. When she looked up, Dante was on the ground, not moving. She crawled to him, grabbed his arm. Dante! His eyes opened. Go. Find Roman. Carmine's not working alone. What? There's someone else, someone higher up. Bishop was just the courier. The real threat? He coughed, blood on his lips. Dante, stay with me. But his eyes were closing. Serafina looked around wildly. The gunfight was dying down. Roman's men were winning, but Roman was gone. Somewhere in the darkness with Carmine. She made a choice. She ran. Down the riverwalk, following the sound of footsteps and shouting. Her bag bounced against her hip, the real ledger hidden inside. She found them near the water. Roman had Carmine pinned against a railing, gun to his head. It's over, Roman said. Carmine laughed. Blood ran from his nose. You still don't get it. Get what? I'm not the one you should be worried about. What are you talking about? Carmine's eyes shifted past Roman. To Serafina. She followed his gaze and saw the woman from the warehouse, the one who'd been cleared. She stood 20 feet away, gun raised, pointed directly at Roman's back. Step away from him, Roman, the woman said calmly. Roman froze. Elena, I'm sorry. I really am. But this is bigger than you, bigger than all of us. Serafina's mind raced. Elena. She'd been in the safe room. She'd been cleared. Unless the logs had been faked after all. You're Bishop, Serafina said. Elena smiled. No, Carmine's Bishop. I'm the one who hired him. Roman's gun didn't waver. Why? Because your father destroyed mine. Took everything from him, left him to die in prison while you built an empire on the ruins of what he created. And I've spent 15 years inside your organization, waiting for the right moment to take it all back. Elena, you don't have to. Move away from Carmine. Now, or I put a bullet in your spine. Roman's jaw clenched. Slowly he stepped back. Carmine straightened, smirking. Told you, you never saw it coming. Elena kept her gun trained on Roman. The ledger, give it to me. Serafina clutched her bag tighter. No, I'm not asking. If I give you this, you'll kill us anyway. Probably. But if you don't, I'll kill you right now. At least this way, you get a few more minutes. Serafina looked at Roman. His eyes met hers. And in that moment, she saw the calculation running behind them. He was going to do something stupid. Roman, don't... He moved. Fast. Faster than she'd ever seen anyone move. He spun, fired at Elena. She fired back. Both shots rang out simultaneously. Elena went down, clutching her shoulder. Roman staggered, blood spreading across his chest. Serafina screamed. Carmine lunged for the gun Roman had dropped. Serafina didn't think. She grabbed the only weapon she had, the leather document tube, and swung it at Carmine's head. It connected with a sickening crack. Carmine dropped like a stone. Serafina fell to her knees beside Roman. No, 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 no! He was still breathing, barely. Get out of here, he rasped. Take the ledger. Finish this. I'm not leaving you. Serafina. Shut up. Just shut up and stay awake. She pressed her hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. There was so much blood. Behind her, she heard sirens. Someone had called the police. Roman's hand found hers. You have to go. If they find you here with the ledger, I don't care. I do. Why? Why do you care? His eyes locked on hers. Because I lied. When I said I didn't love you, I lied. Serafina's breath caught. Roman, I've been lying since the day you walked into my house, because it was easier than admitting the truth, easier than facing what I felt. But I'm done lying. Don't. Don't do this now. You're going to be fine. We're going to get you help, and you're going to... I love you, Serafina. I think I have since the moment I saw you standing in your father's studio, covered in paint, angry at the world. And I'm sorry I wasted 11 months pretending I didn't. Tears blurred her vision. You can't do this. You can't tell me this and then die. I'm not planning on dying. Good. Because I love you too. And I'm going to be really pissed if you leave me now. Roman smiled, blood on his teeth. Noted. The sirens were closer now. Serafina looked around. Elena was unconscious. Carmine wasn't moving. Roman's men were scattered, some injured, some helping the wounded. She had the ledger. She had the proof. And she had a choice. Stay and explain everything to the police, or run and finish what her father started. Roman's hand squeezed hers. Go. I can't leave you. You can. You have to. Roman, finish this. For your father, for Miguel, for everyone Carmine and Elena destroyed. Serafina's chest felt like it was splitting open, but she knew he was right. She leaned down, kissed him, tasted blood and rain and goodbye. Don't die, she whispered. Don't get caught. She stood, grabbed her bag, and ran. The sirens screamed behind her. Red and blue lights flooded the riverwalk. But Serafina disappeared into the Chicago night, the ledger clutched against her chest, and didn't look back. Serafina ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out. She collapsed in an alley 3 blocks from the river, gasping, shaking, Roman's blood still wet on her hands. She pressed her back against a brick wall and tried to think through the panic. Roman was shot, maybe dying. The police had him. They had Elena. They had Carmine. And she had the ledger. The real one. The evidence that could bring down everyone involved in 7 years of murder and betrayal. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out with trembling hands. Unknown number. Get to the brownstone on Fletcher, 3rd floor, doors open. Don't trust anyone else. She stared at the message. Could be another trap. Could be someone trying to help. She didn't have many options. Serafina pushed herself upright and started walking. The brownstone was in a quiet neighborhood north of downtown. Old buildings, tree-lined streets, the kind of place where people minded their own business. She climbed the steps to the 3rd floor, found the door unlocked like the text promised. Inside, a woman sat at a small table. Older, 50s maybe, sharp eyes behind thin-framed glasses. She looked up when Serafina entered. Lock the door, the woman said. Serafina hesitated. Lock it or leave. Your choice. Serafina locked it. The woman gestured to a chair. Sit. You look like you're about to fall over. Who are you? Someone who knew your father, someone who's been waiting for you to find that ledger for a very long time. Serafina sat slowly, her bag clutched in her lap. How did you know I had it? Because I'm the one who helped Victor hide it. The room tilted slightly. You knew Victor Castiglione? I was his attorney. Helped him set up accounts, move assets, protect his family after he discovered what Carmine was doing. When he realized Carmine would kill him, he asked me to help hide the evidence. We chose the prayer book because your father was the only person Victor trusted who had the skills to preserve it properly. What's your name? Rebecca Marsh. I've been in hiding since Victor died. Carmine had a hit out on me. Still does, probably. Rebecca pushed a folder across the table. But that's going to change tonight. Serafina opened the folder. Documents, bank statements, transaction records, all of it corroborating what was in the ledger. You've had this the whole time, Serafina asked. I've had copies, backups, but copies aren't enough. The original ledger, in Victor's handwriting, with your father's authentication marks. That's what will stand up in court. That's what will destroy them. Court? I thought we were just trying to survive. Rebecca leaned forward. Survival is the first step. Justice is the second. You have the evidence to dismantle not just Carmine's operation, but Elena's entire network, everyone who helped them, everyone who looked the other way, everyone who profited from the deaths of innocent people. And what am I supposed to do with it? You're going to testify. Serafina's stomach dropped. Testify in court? Against everyone. Carmine, Elena, every corrupt official on their payroll, every dirty cop, every judge who took bribes. The ledger doesn't just expose the criminals, Serafina. It exposes the system that protected them. They'll kill me before I ever make it to a courtroom. Not if we do this right. Rebecca pulled out another document. I've been in contact with a federal prosecutor, someone outside the Chicago system, someone who's been building a case against organized crime for years but couldn't get witnesses to come forward. With your testimony and this evidence, he can bring charges that will actually stick. You're talking about witness protection, disappearing, never coming back. I'm talking about ending this, permanently. Serafina thought about Roman bleeding on the Riverwalk, thought about Miguel tied to a chair, thought about her father dying for this ledger. What if I say no? She asked. Then you run for the rest of your life, and eventually they catch you, because people like Carmine and Elena don't stop. They have too much to lose. What about Roman? Rebecca's expression softened. What about him? He's not the enemy here. He was trying to stop this. He got shot trying to protect me. Roman Moretti built an empire on violence and fear. He may not be Carmine, but he's not innocent. He saved my life. That doesn't make him a good man. Serafina's hands tightened on the ledger. Maybe not, but it makes him my choice. Rebecca studied her for a long moment. You love him. It wasn't a question. Yes. Even knowing what he is? I know exactly what he is, and I'm still here. Rebecca sighed. Love makes people stupid. Or brave. Depends on how you look at it. Fair enough? Rebecca stood, walked to the window, looked out at the street below. The prosecutor I mentioned, his name is Mitchell Hayes. He's clean. One of the few. If you agree to testify, he'll protect you. But you need to decide now, because the moment word gets out that the ledger is in play, every criminal in Chicago is going to be looking for you. They're already looking for me. Not like this. Right now, you're a loose end. Once they know you're cooperating with the feds, you're an existential threat. There's a difference. Serafina pulled out her phone. No new messages. No word from Roman. She didn't know if he was alive or dead. Didn't know if she'd ever see him again, but she knew what her father would want her to do. Knew what Miguel had died trying to protect. Set up the meeting, she said. I'll testify. Rebecca nodded. I'll make the call. 3 hours later, Serafina sat in a federal building downtown, facing a man who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Mitchell Hayes had dark circles under his eyes, a tie hanging loose around his neck, and a recorder on the table between them. Start from the beginning, he said. Serafina told him everything. Her father's death, the prayer book, the ledger, Roman, Carmine, Elena, the shooting at the Riverwalk. Hayes listened without interrupting, taking notes, his expression growing darker with every detail. When she finished, he sat back in his chair. This is bigger than I thought. How big? Big enough that half the charges I was planning to bring just became the tip of the iceberg. He tapped the ledger. This connects to cases I've been investigating for years. Money laundering, racketeering, murder for hire. If even half of this checks out, we can take down an entire network. What happens to Roman? Hayes's eyes narrowed. Roman Moretti is a crime boss. He's committed crimes. Lots of them. The fact that he was betrayed by someone worse doesn't erase that. He didn't kill my father. He didn't kill Victor's family. He was trying to stop the people who did. That may factor into sentencing, but he's not walking away from this clean. Serafina's chest tightened. What if I refuse to testify against him?
Then you're obstructing justice, and I'll have you arrested. You said you needed me. I do, but I need the truth more. All of it. Not just the parts that fit the story you want to tell. Serafina stared at him. You're asking me to help you put the man I love in prison. I'm asking you to tell the truth and let the system decide what happens next. The system is corrupt. You said so yourself. Half the people who should be prosecuting these crimes are on Carmine's payroll, which is why we're doing this at the federal level, which is why I've spent 5 years building a team I can trust, and which is why I need you to trust me. Serafina wanted to throw the ledger in his face and walk out, but she thought about her father, about the note he'd left. Take it to Roman. He's the only one who can finish this. Her father had trusted Roman, and Roman had trusted her to do what he couldn't. If I testify, Serafina said slowly, I want immunity for Roman, for anything related to his efforts to stop Carmine and Elena. He was trying to fix this. That should count for something. Hayes shook his head. I can't promise that. Then we don't have a deal. Serafina, my father died for this. Miguel died for this. Roman almost died for this. I'm not going to be the reason they all suffered for nothing just so you can pad your conviction rate. Hayes's jaw tightened. I'll talk to my superiors, see what we can do. But I'm not making promises I can't keep. Fair enough. Hayes stood, gathered his notes. I'm putting you in protective custody, safe house outside the city, armed guards, no contact with anyone until the trial. What about Roman? Can I see him? Find out if he's alive. In surgery at Northwestern, that's all I know. Relief flooded through her so fast she felt dizzy. He's going to be okay? I don't know, but he's alive. For now. It was the best she could hope for. The safe house was a cabin in Wisconsin, 2 hours north of Chicago, buried in the woods, guarded by federal agents who looked like they'd been carved from granite. Serafina spent 3 days there, alone, waiting. She read through the ledger a dozen times, memorized every name, every date, every transaction, prepared herself to answer questions she didn't want to face. On the 4th day, Rebecca Marsh arrived. How is he? Serafina asked before Rebecca even sat down. Roman's stable, out of surgery. He'll recover. Is he under arrest? Not yet, but it's coming. Hayes is building the case. Once they have everything they need, they'll move. Serafina closed her eyes. I thought testifying was supposed to protect him. You're testifying to expose Carmine and Elena. Roman's fate is still up in the air. Rebecca set a folder on the table. But there's been a development. What kind of development? Carmine's talking, cutting a deal. He's offering to testify against Elena in exchange for a reduced sentence. Serafina's blood ran cold. What does that mean for Roman? It means Carmine's going to try to shift as much blame onto Roman as possible, paint him as the real villain, himself as just a pawn following orders. That's bullshit. Roman was the target, not the orchestrator. I know that, you know that, but Carmine's a good liar, and juries love a repentant criminal. So what do? Rebecca pulled a document from the folder. We fight back. Roman's attorney is building a defense, but he needs your help. What kind of help? Your testimony. Not just about Carmine and Elena, about Roman, about what he did to protect you, about how he risked everything to stop the real traitors. Serafina took the document, scanned it. It was a deposition request. Pages of questions about Roman's character, his actions, his motivations. If I do this, she said slowly, I'm putting myself in the middle of a war. Carmine's people, Elena's people, they'll all come after me. They're already coming after you. At least this way you fight back. Serafina thought about Roman's voice on the phone that first night. I can't protect you if you won't let me. Thought about the way he'd kissed her in the river house, desperate and real and entirely human. Thought about his last words before she ran. Finish this. She signed the document. When do I testify? She asked.
Preliminary hearing is in 2 weeks. Full trial starts in 6. You'll be on the stand for both. And Roman? He'll be there. In custody, probably. But he'll be there. Serafina handed the signed document back to Rebecca. Tell his attorney I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not letting Carmine destroy him. I'll pass it along. Rebecca stood to leave, then hesitated. For what it's worth, I think your father would be proud of you. For testifying against the mob. For standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs you everything. Serafina's throat tightened. I hope you're right. The preliminary hearing was a circus. News crews packed the courthouse steps, protesters on both sides, some calling for Roman's head, others claiming he was being framed. Serafina was escorted through a side entrance surrounded by armed guards, wearing clothes Rebecca had brought because everything she owned had been left behind in various safe houses and burning buildings. Inside the courtroom, she saw Roman for the first time in 2 weeks. He sat at the defense table, hands cuffed in front of him, wearing a suit that looked strange on him after seeing him in blood-stained clothes and tactical gear. His face was thinner, pale, but his eyes found hers the moment she walked in. She wanted to run to him, wanted to tell him she was sorry, wanted to ask if he was okay. But the guards led her to the witness stand, and she had to sit down and swear to tell the truth and pretend her heart wasn't breaking. Hayes stood, approached the stand. Ms. Vale, can you state your relationship to the defendant? I'm his wife. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. And how long have you been married? 11 months, separated for the last 2 weeks. Can you describe the circumstances of your marriage? Serafina took a breath. My father owed Roman money. A significant amount. When my father died, the debt transferred to me. Roman offered to clear the debt in exchange for a marriage contract. 1 year. A business arrangement. Yes. Did you love him when you married him? No. Do you love him now? Carmine's attorney shot to his feet. Objection. Relevance. The judge looked at Hayes. Counselor, I'm establishing the witness's potential bias, Your Honor. Overruled. The witness may answer. Serafina's eyes locked on Roman's. Yes. I love him now. Hayes nodded. Ms. Vale, can you tell the court what happened the night of your father's death? She told them. Everything. The prayer book, the ledger, the names and dates and blood money. She told them about Miguel, about Dante, about the cabin and the warehouse and the Riverwalk. She told them about Carmine's confession, about Elena's betrayal. And she told them about Roman, about how he'd married her to protect her, about how he'd risked everything to expose the truth. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Hayes returned to his seat. Carmine's attorney stood. His name was Douglas Werner. Expensive suit, practiced smile, shark eyes. Ms. Vale, he said smoothly, you testified that you love Roman Moretti, is that correct? Yes? And you're aware that perjury is a crime. I'm not lying. Of course not. But love does make people see things differently, doesn't it? Makes them willing to overlook flaws, excuse behaviors, even lie to protect the people they care about. Objection, Roman's attorney said, badgering the witness. Sustained. Mr. Werner, get to your question. Werner smiled. Ms. Vale, isn't it true that Roman Moretti runs a criminal organization? He runs businesses. Businesses that engage in illegal activities. I don't know the details of his businesses. But you lived in his house for 11 months. You must have seen something. I saw a man trying to protect people. I saw a man betrayed by someone he trusted. Or you saw what you wanted to see, because you were falling in love with him. Serafina's hands clenched. I saw the truth. Did you? Or did you see a version of events that conveniently makes your husband the hero and my client the villain? Your client murdered my father. Werner's smile never wavered. My client is accused of many things, but murder isn't one of them. In fact, Mr. Lazio has provided evidence suggesting that it was Roman Moretti who ordered the deaths of several individuals, including your father, in order to cover up his own criminal activities. Serafina's blood boiled. That's a lie, is it? Or is it possible that Roman Moretti manipulated you, used your grief over your father's death to gain your loyalty? Convinced you to blame Carmine Lazio for crimes he himself committed? No. You're very certain. I'm certain because I found the evidence.
I read the ledger. I saw the proof. A ledger that conveniently implicates everyone except the man you love. A ledger that tells the truth.
Werner picked up a document from his table. Ms. Vale, do you recognize this signature? He showed her a page, her father's handwriting. Yes, that's my father's. And this note here, in the margin, what does it say? Serafina read it. Her stomach dropped. R.M. knew, did nothing. Complicit?
Werner's smile widened. Your father suspected Roman Moretti was involved. According to this note, he believed Moretti knew about the betrayal and did nothing to stop it. Does that sound like a hero to you? Serafina's mind raced. She'd seen that note before, but she'd interpreted it differently. Her father had been questioning, not accusing, trying to understand why Roman hadn't acted sooner.
My father was trying to figure out who to trust, she said. That note doesn't prove Roman was involved. It proves my father was being careful. Or it proves he was afraid of Roman Moretti, afraid of what would happen if he exposed him. That's not what it means. Then what does it mean, Ms. Vale? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your father suspected the man you're trying to protect. Serafina looked at Roman. His expression was unreadable. My father trusted Roman, she said firmly. He went to him for help. He asked him to stop the betrayal. Roman didn't move fast enough. My father wrote that note because he was frustrated, not because he thought Roman was the enemy. That's your interpretation. That's the truth. Werner set the document down. No further questions. Serafina stepped down from the stand, shaking. The hearing continued for 2 more hours. Other witnesses, other evidence, but Serafina barely heard any of it. She kept thinking about that note, about the doubt Werner had planted. What if her father had suspected Roman? What if she was wrong? When the hearing ended, the judge set a trial date and dismissed the court. Serafina was escorted out through the side entrance again, away from the cameras and the chaos. But before they reached the door, Roman's attorney caught up to her. Ms. Vale, a word? Serafina stopped. What? Roman wants to see you. He's in custody. They won't let me. I arranged a meeting. 5 minutes. That's all they'll give us. Serafina's heart pounded. When? Now. They took her to a secure room in the courthouse basement. Gray walls, metal table, 2 chairs. Roman sat in one of them, hands cuffed to the table. The guards left them alone. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Roman said, You shouldn't have testified for me. I testified for the truth. The truth is I'm guilty. Of a lot of things. Werner's going to tear me apart at trial. Let him try. Roman's eyes searched hers. Serafina, listen to me. You need to distance yourself from this. From me. If you keep defending me, they're going to drag you down too. I don't care. I do. Why? Why do you care what happens to me? Because I love you. And I'm not going to let you throw your life away trying to save mine. Serafina crossed to him, knelt beside the chair so they were eye level. You told me to finish this. That's what I'm doing. I meant expose Carmine, not destroy yourself protecting me. I'm not destroying myself. I'm fighting for something that matters. I'm not worth fighting for. Yes, you are. Roman's jaw tightened. You don't know what I've done. The things I've ordered, the people I've hurt. I know enough. Then you know I'm not the man you think I am. Serafina took his face in her hands, forced him to look at her. I know exactly who you are. You're the man who married me to keep me alive, who stormed into that cabin ready to kill for me, who took a bullet meant for me and told me to run. You're flawed and violent and impossible, but you're also human, and you're trying. That's more than most people can say. Roman's eyes closed. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. He laughed. It sounded broken. How long do we have? Serafina glanced at the clock. 2 minutes. Not enough. Never enough. She kissed him, gentle this time, not desperate, not goodbye, just a promise. When she pulled back, Roman's eyes were wet. Win this, he said quietly. Finish what your father started, and then walk away. Build a life. Be happy. Not without you. Serafina, I said no. We do this together or not at all. The door opened. The guards returned. Time's up, one of them said. Serafina stood. I'll see you at trial. Roman nodded. I'll be there. She walked out without looking back. Because if she looked back, she'd fall apart. And she couldn't afford to fall apart. Not when the war was just beginning. The trial began on a cold morning in late November. 6 weeks after the Riverwalk. 6 weeks of depositions and legal motions, and nights when Serafina couldn't sleep because she kept seeing Roman's blood on her hands. She sat in the gallery, surrounded by federal agents, watching as the jury filed in. 12 faces. Strangers who would decide whether the people responsible for her father's death would face justice or walk free. Roman sat at the defense table, wearing a suit that fit better than the last one. His attorney, a sharp woman named Catherine Reeves, leaned close, whispering something. Roman nodded but didn't look convinced. Across the aisle, Carmine sat with Douglas Werner, looking calm. Too calm. Like a man who knew something nobody else did. Elena was at a separate table, her own attorney beside her. She'd refused to cooperate with anyone, refused to testify, refused to make a deal. Just sat there, silent and cold, watching everything unfold. The judge entered, everyone stood, and the war began. Hayes opened with the ledger, projected it onto screens for the jury, walked them through every payment, every date, every coded transaction. He explained how Carmine had stolen millions over 7 years, how Elena had orchestrated it from the inside, how together they'd ordered the deaths of anyone who got too close to the truth. Victor Castiglione, his wife and daughter, Serafina's father, Miguel Torres. Names became people, people became tragedies. The jury listened. Then Werner stood for the defense. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, voice smooth as oil, you've heard a compelling story. A story of betrayal and murder and corruption. But stories aren't the same as truth. And the truth is, the prosecution is asking you to believe that my client, a loyal employee of Roman Moretti for 20 years, suddenly decided to betray the man who trusted him. Why? Greed? Ambition? Or because he was following orders? He let that hang in the air. Roman Moretti is a powerful man, a dangerous man, a man who built an empire on fear and violence. And when that empire started to crumble, when people started asking questions, he needed someone to blame, someone expendable, someone like Carmine Lazio. Werner walked to the evidence table, picked up the ledger. This document, which the prosecution claims is proof of my client's guilt, was found by Serafina Vale, Roman Moretti's wife. A woman who, by her own admission, loves him. A woman who has every reason to protect him. How convenient that the evidence she found implicates everyone except her husband. Serafina's hands clenched in her lap. Werner continued, the prosecution wants you to believe that Carmine Lazio betrayed Roman Moretti, but I'm going to show you that it was the other way around. That Roman Moretti used Carmine Lazio as a scapegoat to cover his own crimes, and that Serafina Vale, blinded by love, helped him do it. The first week of trial was brutal. Witnesses testified about transactions and offshore accounts and coded messages. Forensic accountants traced money through shell corporations and international banks. Serafina sat through all of it, taking notes, watching the jury's faces. Some believed Hayes, some looked skeptical. None of them looked certain. On the 8th day, Carmine took the stand. Werner walked him through his testimony carefully. Carmine spoke softly, calmly, painting himself as a loyal soldier who'd done what he was told. He admitted to moving money, yes, to arranging payments, yes, but always, he claimed, under Roman's orders. I didn't want to do it, Carmine said, voice heavy with false regret, but I was afraid. Roman Moretti is not a forgiving man. If I'd refused, I would have ended up like Victor, like Serafina's father, dead. So you're saying Roman Moretti ordered the murders? Werner asked. I'm saying he created an environment where people died if they became inconvenient. I survived by doing what I was told, even when it made me sick. Serafina wanted to scream. Roman sat motionless, face carved from stone. Hayes cross-examined aggressively. Tore into Carmine's timeline, pointed out inconsistencies, showed evidence that contradicted his claims. But Carmine was good, stayed calm, deflected, admitted to small lies to make the big ones seem more believable. By the time he stepped down, Serafina couldn't tell if the jury believed him or not. Elena testified next. Unlike Carmine, she didn't pretend to be a victim. "I did what I did for revenge," she said flatly. "Roman's father destroyed mine, took everything, left my family with nothing. I spent 15 years working my way into his organization so I could take it all back. Carmine helped me because I paid him. That's all." "Did Roman Moretti know about any of this?" her attorney asked. "No, he was the target, not the accomplice." It was the first honest thing anyone had said in days. But her honesty didn't help Roman. Because even though she confirmed he wasn't involved in the betrayal, she also detailed every illegal thing he'd done to build his empire. Every bribe, every threat, every violent act. By the time she finished, Roman looked less like a victim and more like a criminal who'd been outplayed. The prosecution rested. Catherine Reeves stood. "Your Honor, the defense calls Serafina Vale." Serafina walked to the stand for the second time, swore to tell the truth again. Met Roman's eyes across the courtroom. Reeves approached. "Ms. Vale, you've heard the testimony against your husband. Do you believe he's guilty of the crimes Carmine Lazio described?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I was there. I saw what happened. I read the evidence, and nothing in that ledger points to Roman. It points to Carmine and to Elena. They're the ones who betrayed him, not the other way around. Mr. Werner suggested that your love for Roman makes you biased. How do you respond to that?" "I am biased. I love him. I'm not going to pretend I don't, but that doesn't make me blind. I know what he is. I know he's done things he shouldn't have, but he didn't kill my father. He didn't kill Victor's family. He didn't orchestrate this conspiracy. He was trying to stop it." "How do you know?" "Because he married me to protect me. Because he risked everything to find the truth. Because when Carmine and Elena had me trapped, Roman came for me. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped being a transaction and became someone he cared about. And people don't throw themselves into gunfire for a scapegoat." Reeves nodded. "No further questions." Werner stood. "Ms. Vale, you testified that Roman Moretti married you to protect you, but isn't it true that he also married you to settle a debt?" "Yes." "A debt your father owed him?" "Yes." "A debt that, if left unpaid, would have ruined you financially?" "Yes." "So Roman Moretti didn't marry you out of pure altruism. He married you because it benefited him." "Everything Roman does benefits him in some way. That's who he is. But that doesn't mean he didn't also want to protect me. Or maybe he wanted to control you, to make sure you couldn't testify against him if his crimes were ever exposed." Serafina's voice hardened. "If Roman wanted to control me, I'd be dead, like everyone else who became a liability. But I'm not, because he let me go, even when it would have been easier to kill me. He let you go after you found the ledger, after you became useful. He let me go because he's not a monster. He's a man who made mistakes and is trying to fix them. That's more than Carmine can say." Werner's smile was cold. "You're very loyal to a man who, by your own admission, only married you for a debt. I'm loyal to the truth. And the truth is that Roman Moretti is guilty of a lot of things, but he's not guilty of this." Werner walked back to his table. "No further questions." Serafina stepped down, her heart pounding. She'd done everything she could. Now it was up to the jury. Closing arguments lasted 2 days. Hayes summarized the evidence, connected the dots, painted Carmine and Elena as calculated killers who'd betrayed everyone around them. Werner countered with doubt, with questions, with the suggestion that Roman was the real villain hiding behind a convenient scapegoat. Reeves defended Roman not by claiming he was innocent of everything, but by showing that he was innocent of this, that he'd been betrayed, not the betrayer, that he deserved a chance to answer for his real crimes, not ones fabricated by people trying to save themselves. The jury deliberated for 4 days, 4 days of waiting, 4 days of second-guessing every word she'd said on the stand, 4 days of wondering if she'd done enough. On the 5th day, they returned. The courtroom was silent as the jury foreman stood. "In the case of the United States versus Carmine Lazio, on the charge of racketeering, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder?" "Guilty." One by one, the guilty verdicts came. Racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy, murder for hire. Carmine's face went white. Elena showed no reaction at all. Then the foreman turned to Roman's charges. Serafina held her breath. In the case of the United States versus Roman Moretti, on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find? Not guilty. Relief flooded through her. On the charge of racketeering? Guilty. Her stomach dropped. The foreman continued. Guilty on racketeering, guilty on money laundering, guilty on several counts of extortion and bribery. Not guilty on the murders? Not guilty on the conspiracy charges related to Carmine and Elena's betrayal. It was a split verdict. Roman was guilty, but not of everything, not of the worst things. The judge set a sentencing date for 3 weeks later. Serafina was escorted out of the courtroom before she could speak to Roman, but she saw his face as they led him away. He looked relieved. Sentencing day arrived with snow falling on the courthouse steps. Serafina sat in the same seat she'd occupied for weeks, watching as the judge reviewed the case files. Carmine was sentenced first. Life in prison without parole. He showed no emotion as they led him away. Elena received the same. She smiled as the bailiffs took her out, like she'd won some private victory. Then it was Roman's turn. The judge looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Moretti, you've been found guilty of serious crimes, crimes that have caused significant harm to this community. However, the jury also found that you were not responsible for the conspiracy that resulted in multiple murders. That distinction matters. She paused. I've reviewed the testimony, I've read the evidence, and I've considered the arguments from both sides. What I see is a man who built an empire on morally questionable foundations, but who also took significant personal risk to expose a betrayal within his own organization. A man who, when given the choice between protecting himself and protecting others, chose the latter. Roman's attorney leaned forward. That doesn't excuse your crimes, the judge continued, but it does provide context. Therefore, I'm sentencing you to 12 years in federal prison with the possibility of parole after 8 years, contingent on cooperation with ongoing investigations into organized crime networks. 12 years. Serafina's chest felt hollow, but it wasn't life. It wasn't forever. It was a chance. Roman was let out. This time he looked back, found Serafina in the crowd, and mouthed 2 words. Thank you. She nodded, because there was nothing else to say. The weeks after the trial were strange. Quiet. Serafina moved back into her apartment on Paulina, the one she'd barely lived in before everything fell apart. She reopened her father's studio, started taking restoration jobs again. People talked. Of course they talked. She was the woman who'd married a mob boss and helped put his second-in-command in prison. Some called her brave. Some called her stupid. Some just avoided her entirely. She didn't care. She was tired of caring what people thought. 3 months after Roman's sentencing, she received a letter from him. The envelope was plain, the handwriting unfamiliar. But inside, in Roman's voice, Serafina, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But I needed to write it anyway. Thank you for fighting for me. For believing I was worth saving when I wasn't sure I believed it myself. You could have walked away 100 times, should have walked away. But you didn't, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to figure out what I did to deserve that kind of loyalty. I know 12 years is a long time. I know you're young. I know you have a whole life ahead of you that doesn't include waiting for a convicted criminal to get out of prison. So I'm not asking you to wait. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just telling you that loving you was the first real thing I've done in a long time. Maybe the only real thing. And whatever happens next, whatever you choose, that won't change. Be happy. Build something good. Live the life your father would have wanted for you. And if 8 years from now you still think about me sometimes, maybe we'll see where we stand. Our Serafina read the letter 3 times. Then she sat down and wrote back. She visited him 2 weeks later. The federal facility was 2 hours outside Chicago, surrounded by fences and guard towers and gray concrete. They sat across from each other in a visitation room, a table between them, guards watching from the corners. Roman looked different, thinner, harder, but his eyes were the same. You came, he said. You thought I wouldn't? I hoped you would. Didn't let myself believe it. Serafina pulled out a folder. I brought you something. What is it? The final decoded pages from the ledger. Your attorney thinks they might help with your parole case. Proof that you cooperated, that you helped expose the full extent of the corruption. Roman took the folder, flipped through it. This is good work. I learned from the best. He looked up. Your father would be proud of you. I hope so. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Roman said, You didn't have to come. You didn't have to write back. You could have walked away clean. I know.
So why didn't you?
Serafina leaned forward. Because I meant what I said in court. I love you. And I'm not walking away from that just because it's hard. Serafina, I'm going to be in here for years. You can't put your life on hold. I'm not putting my life on hold. I'm living it. I'm working. I'm rebuilding my father's studio. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And part of what I want is this. You. Us. Whatever that looks like. Roman's hands clenched on the table. I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. You're not some irredeemable monster. You're a person who made mistakes and is paying for them. That's called being human. I've done terrible things. So have a lot of people. The difference is you're trying to be better. That counts for something. Roman's eyes were wet. What if I can't be better? What if this is all I know? Then you learn something new. You have time. Use it. He laughed, bitter. 8 years minimum. That's a lot of time. It is. But I'll be here. Not every day. Not even every week, but I'll be here. Because you came for me when I needed you. Now I'm doing the same. Roman reached across the table. His fingers brushed hers. The guard cleared his throat. They pulled back. I'll write, Serafina said, and I'll visit when I can. And when you get out, we'll figure out what comes next. Together. Roman nodded. Together. The years passed slowly. Serafina threw herself into her work, restoring paintings and manuscripts and broken things that people thought couldn't be saved. She testified in 3 more trials, helping prosecutors dismantle what was left of the networks Carmine and Elena had built. She visited Roman every month, watched him change, watched him read books and take classes and slowly become someone less hard, less angry, someone who could talk about his mistakes without deflecting, someone who could imagine a future beyond violence. Rebecca Marsh became a friend. They met for coffee once a week, talked about the cases they were working on, the lives they were rebuilding. Dante recovered from his injuries, left Chicago, started a new life somewhere out west. He called Serafina once a year, just to check in, just to make sure she was okay. She was. Not perfect, not healed, but okay. 8 years and 2 months after Roman's sentencing, Serafina got a call from his attorney. He's been granted parole, Catherine said. He'll be released next month. Serafina's heart skipped. Next month? Yes. I thought you'd want to know. I do, thank you. She hung up, stared at her phone, and tried to figure out what she was feeling. Relief, fear, hope, all of it at once. The day of Roman's release, Serafina stood outside the facility gates, waiting. The door opened. Roman walked out. He looked older, grayer at the temples, lines around his eyes. But still him. Still the man who'd married her to keep her alive and kissed her in a burning river house and told her to run when he thought he was dying. He saw her, stopped. For a moment they just stood there, 20 feet apart, 8 years of letters and visits and waiting between them. Then Serafina walked to him. Hi, she said. Hi. You look good. You're a terrible liar. She laughed. Okay, you look like you've been in prison for 8 years. Better? Better? They started walking, away from the facility, toward the parking lot where Serafina's car waited. What now? Roman asked. Now we go home. I don't have a home. Yes, you do. Serafina unlocked the car. It's small, 3rd floor. The radiator's broken and the water pressure is terrible. But it's mine. And if you want, it can be ours. Roman stopped. Serafina, I'm not asking you to marry me again. Not yet. I'm just asking if you want to try, for real this time. No contracts, no debt, no protecting each other from disasters. Just 2 people who've been through hell and came out the other side and maybe want to build something together. Roman's voice was rough. I don't know how to do that. The normal thing. The healthy thing. Neither do I, but we can figure it out. What if I mess it up? Then we fix it. That's what people do. Roman looked at her, really looked at her,
like he was seeing her for the first time. You waited, he said quietly. I told you I would. I didn't believe you. I know, but I'm here anyway.
He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her, held on like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting. Serafina held him back, and for the first time in 8 years, she felt like she could breathe all the way. They drove back to Chicago together, talked about small things, stupid things, the weather, traffic, the sandwich shop that had closed down while he was gone. Not the big things. Not yet. Those would come later. When they reached the apartment, Roman stood in the doorway, looking around at the space that was somehow both familiar and foreign. It's not much, Serafina said. It's perfect. They spent the evening on the couch, not talking much, just existing in the same space, relearning how to be near each other outside of a visitation room. Eventually, Serafina said, I need to tell you something. Roman tensed. What? When you were inside, I finished decoding the entire ledger. Every page, every margin note. My father left instructions, not just about the evidence, about what to do with it. What did he say? He said to give it to you, said you were the only one who could finish what he started, and he was right. Roman was quiet for a moment. Your father was a better man than I'll ever be. Maybe, but you're the man who finished what he started. That matters. Does it? Yes. Because people don't change all at once. They change in moments, in choices. You could have let Carmine destroy everything. You could have walked away when things got hard. But you didn't. You chose differently, and that's what my father believed you would do. Roman's hand found hers. I spent 8 years thinking about what I'd say to you when I got out, rehearsing it, but now I'm here and I don't have words. You don't need words. I need you to know that I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, fall back into old patterns. I know. And you're still willing to try? I'm still here, aren't I? Roman pulled her close, kissed her forehead. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You loved me, even when it was inconvenient, even when it was dangerous, even when you didn't know how. That's enough. They sat in silence, wrapped around each other, and Serafina thought about all the things her father had taught her, how to restore broken things, how to see beauty in damage, how to find what was hidden beneath layers of time and neglect. He'd never told her those lessons would apply to people, but maybe that had been the point all along. 6 months later, Roman proposed. Not with a contract this time, with a ring. A simple band he'd saved for over a year. They got married in a courthouse again. But this time it was different. This time Rebecca was there. Dante flew in from Montana. A handful of friends from the studio. This time, when Roman said his vows, he meant them. And when Serafina said hers, she wasn't agreeing to a deal. She was choosing him, fully, completely. With all his flaws and all his history and all the messy, complicated reality of loving someone who'd spent most of his life being unlovable. Because love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone worth fighting for. Someone worth rebuilding with. Someone who looked at the wreckage of their life and said, with you, I can make something better. They moved into a bigger apartment. Roman started working with Rebecca, helping prosecute organized crime cases from the inside, using everything he knew to dismantle the systems he'd once been part of. Serafina expanded the studio, hired an assistant, started teaching restoration techniques to students who wanted to learn how to save things people thought were beyond saving. They fought sometimes. Old habits died hard. Roman struggled with control. Serafina struggled with trust. But they worked through it, together. Because that was the thing about real love. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't easy, it didn't fix everything, but it gave you a reason to keep trying. On the anniversary of her father's death, Serafina went to his grave, brought flowers, sat in the grass, and told him everything that had happened. I finished it, she said quietly, the way you wanted. The ledger's been decoded. The people responsible are in prison, Roman's free, and we're building something good, something you'd be proud of. The wind rustled through the trees. Serafina pulled out the prayer book, the one that had started everything. She'd restored it fully now, every page cleaned, every binding reinforced. A perfect piece. She opened it to the front page where she'd written a dedication, for the ones who taught me that broken things can be beautiful, that betrayal can be overcome, that love is worth the risk, and that sometimes the greatest act of courage is choosing to rebuild instead of walking away. This is for you, Dad. For Miguel. For Victor and his family. For everyone who fought for truth when it would have been easier to stay silent. Thank you for showing me that restoration isn't just about objects, it's about people too. She closed the book, set it on the headstone, and walked away. Because some things you had to leave behind to move forward. And Serafina Vale had a future waiting. One she'd fought for. One she'd earned. One built on truth and choice and the stubborn belief that people could change if they wanted to badly enough. Roman was waiting by the car. He took her hand when she reached him. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I am." "Where to?" Serafina looked at him, at the man who'd started as a contract and become her choice, who'd been a stranger, then a husband, then an enemy, then a partner, who'd gone to prison for his crimes and come out trying to be better, who loved her enough to let her decide what came next. "Home," she said. "Let's go home." They drove through Chicago together, past the studio where her father had worked, past the river house where they'd kissed for the first time, past the courthouse where they'd married twice, past all the places that had shaped them, toward a future that belonged to them both. And if Serafina had learned anything from restoring broken things, it was this. Damage doesn't define you. What you do with it does. Whether you let it destroy you or whether you use it to build something stronger. She'd chosen to build, so had Roman, and together they were creating something that couldn't be bought or forced or faked, something real, something human, something worth every scar it had cost them to find. The kind of love that didn't erase the past, but honored it by refusing to repeat it. The kind that said, we were broken, and we survived, and now we're building something beautiful from the pieces. And that, Serafina thought as they pulled into their street, as Roman squeezed her hand, as the Chicago skyline glowed in the distance, was the most honest kind of restoration there was. Not pretending the damage never happened, but proving it didn't have to be the end of the story.